podcast called Jellison podcast.
He probably doesn't remember this at all.
Yeah, we work together. It's easy.
This is kind of real. Like, holy shit.
And so it's really cool to get to be a part of that.
Hey, you know how it is, Bill. Hey, when
you now tune into the biggest ever.
We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everyone? We're back with episode 137 of the Jellison podcast. Today for a special guest, the Purdue women's basketball coach, NCAA champion, WNBA champion, Stephanie White. Stephanie, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. Right off the bat, obviously, we got to talk about you being inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame later on this year. What went through your head when you received that news?
Yeah, it's when I got the call, I was actually at a soccer tournament for my oldest son. And so it was, we were at breakfast, and it's just, it's really an honor. I mean, certainly when you grow up in the state of Indiana, you think about being an Indiana All-Star, you think about, being Miss Basketball and hopefully one day, having something in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. It's just unique to our state. It's unique to the history of basketball in our state. And so I was just really humbled and honored and excited about the opportunity and to bring my kids back to see what Indiana basketball is all about. I'm really excited about that.
That's going to be special. Have you and Paint talked at all? Because I know you guys are going to be in the same class, which is pretty cool for Purdue fans.
We haven't since the announcement was made, and their announcement was made a little bit earlier than ours. We talked when I had called the Purdue game earlier in the year. It just kind of caught up a little bit, but nothing yet about the Hall of Fame.
I mean, what does it mean to you to get that recognition? It's a long time coming, but obviously well deserved. We don't even have to get into your accolades. It's just like it goes without saying.
Yeah, I mean, it really does it means a lot. I'm really excited that I get to share it with my good friend, Monica Maxwell, who's getting inducted as well. I mean, we were AAU teammates and have been great friends, since our days playing Indiana high school basketball. So I'm happy to share in that with her. I've been to a lot of those banquets in the past. Lynn Dunn got a medal, and went for Tamika when she got a medal. So I've been to a lot of those banquets in the past, and just, the state of Indiana takes such great pride in our roots in the sport. And so I'm really, really honored, really excited to see everybody and catch up with people that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, how special will it be for you, or how special is it for you to leave an imprint on Indiana? Like you said, we're the Mecca of basketball. The saying is, in 49 other states, it's just basketball, but I mean, it's just different here. What does it mean to be able to have this level of success and everything that's come along with it in the state of Indiana?
It's huge. I've played most of my career. 99% of my career in Indiana. And, a lot of people just don't get that opportunity to play high school ball, to play collegiately, to play professionally, to coach professionally in their home state. I really, I love the fact that my journey kept me home, where our state and our fans appreciate the game, love the game, are passionate about the game. I love the fact that I was able to play every level of my career, and have my coaching career, a majority of it be in Indiana as well. I mean, it's just, if you don't grow up in the state, you don't really get it. You can't really understand just what it means and how much pride our state takes in the game. So yeah, I have had a unique experience being able to do all that in the state, and I'm really glad and honored that I was able to do that. So I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I played basketball like growing up in Boys and Girls Club or whatever, and I never played high school or anything. And I can still tell like how much it means to you guys that have been through and had levels of success in Indiana. Do you carry a level of pride with you, like wherever you go, just knowing that you represent Indiana?
Yeah, of course. And whenever you're having basketball conversations, everyone's like, oh, you grew up in Indiana, so of course you played basketball. Of course you were shooting hoops outside. Of course you were, doing this, and so it's well known across the country. Just and look, there are other places in that have great basketball players, but it's just the deep heritage of our state. And, you think back to the movie Hoosiers, and, for somebody like me, that is how I grew up, playing outside, shooting an outdoor hoop, playing in people's barns, and, playing in a small community in front of great crowds. And really, essentially, I grew up as a community project. My entire hometown and county helped me get here in a number of ways, not just from supporting me, but financially supporting, being, coming to games. It just, so I take great pride in being from a small town in Indiana, and carrying on the legacy of former Indiana athletes.
And that's actually what I was going to bring up next. I want to take you back to when you were that little girl growing up in Lebanon. Could you have dreamed that this would be your legacy and your journey everywhere that's taken you?
No, not at all. I mean, and growing up, of course, had big dreams, and just like everybody does, you're playing outdoors. My grandparents had a court across the street, and that's where I played most of the time, or at the park in town. And it really was whenever the lights were on, and I played mostly with guys, because girls weren't playing at that time. So whenever the lights were on, all the guys would come, and we would play games, and we did it because we loved it. Of course, I had dreams of playing collegiately, never dreamed of playing professionally. And it's the 5, 4, 3, 2, make the game winner, all that we all did. But to look back and to think of all the experiences I had, collegiately, professionally, and now as my profession, all the places I've traveled, all the people I've met, the relationships that I've built because of this game, it's really hard to describe. And it's really hard to think that this was possible. And now I'm really proud, especially for young girls and women, that there are more opportunities in the game. You don't just see it as I have to play to be involved. I have to coach to be involved, outside, broadcasting and business and athletic training and mental health training, and all of these different areas that you can be a female in sport. It's really incredible, the opportunities that exist now. We still have a long way to go, but it's certainly incredible, the opportunities that exist now. And I never would have dreamt that it would have brought me to this place.
And I want to keep talking about that, but Rafael Davis told a story the first time he came on. He's a Boiler, and he also works for BTN now.
Yep.
We were talking about Drew Anthrop, and he was like, Drew Anthrop won an NBA championship with the Lakers, but he didn't play alongside LeBron. I mean, the amount of positions that you can take with like an NBA, WNBA, what any sports team really is remarkable. And you can be a part of that team still, even if you're not on the court. But as far as it goes for women, how have you seen that kind of transition? Because, and I know you talked about you're giving those guys the work back when you were a kid in town. How has that transition gone from back then and to now?
Yeah, it's it's really funny, because back then you just didn't see girls playing. I mean, the first organized team I played on was a YMCA team in Danville, Illinois, and it was all boys. I think I was in, 6th grade before there was a girls team. And I was the only girl playing at the park against the boys. I was the only girl on spring break finding the pickup game against the boys. And now there's not a street that I drive down that there's not a girl playing basketball. So it's really cool to see the opportunity. It's really cool to see the growth. And we see it in a lot of sports. But 50 years after Title IX was legislated, we're at the point where it's normal, and it's normal for male athletes to support female athletes. And it's normal to just be called an athlete and not have to differentiate. Now we still have a lot of growth to do in terms of females in sport in other capacities, and not having a glass ceiling in other capacities. But the Becky Hammonds and the Jenny Buseks of the world, and the basketball world that are really shattering those glass ceilings and are paving the way for others, just like players the Ann Myers, the Ann Donovans, the Billy Moores, the Pat Summits, all the Nancy Liebermans pave ways for us to play. Now our generation are paving ways for the younger generation to be able to continue in sport in different roles. And so it's really exciting to think about it. I think we're not going to see the leaps and bounds of growth until we do have more females in positions to make the hires, until we completely cycle through some of the bias that comes with, hey, it's a basketball player or a basketball coach, not a female basketball player or female basketball coach. So once we kind of filter through that, but the great thing is, you don't see that unconscious bias among other athletes.
Yeah.
You see that bias amongst fans, right? Most of the time. And so, that's really good growth. And I think we're going to continue to see it.
Yeah. And I mean, Becky Hammond, I wanted her to get an NBA job so bad. And I know I forget which team it was, but she just got on with
Las Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, I think she would have been a phenomenal NBA coach. Wherever she goes, she's going to be a phenomenal coach. And then I think it was last week, the Yankees hired Rachel. I can't say her last name, but her first name, Rachel, and they hired her. That's my team. I'm wearing a Yankees hat right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was cool for me to see. But yeah, like you said, other athletes, and I think a lot of the media as well. Well, at least in my experience, really celebrated and embraced it more so than the fans, who are just like, a lot of them say stupid stuff to get a reaction out of people, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, the other players, there's a ton of NBA guys that were going to the WNBA finals, and you could just see how much it meant to those girls that they were there and supporting them and helping bring up the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Basketball is basketball. It really is. And as far as professional sports, and I mean, shoot, when I was collegiately, we were getting so many fans. I mean, we had a couple of different sellouts. So, it was what you did, right? And especially in small college towns, what you do is you go support programs of your university. We had great fan support when I was playing for the Fever and coaching for the Fever. And women's basketball in particular, when you think about the WNBA and the NBA, we started a number of years afterwards. And if you look at the model of how long it took the NBA to get to where it is, WNBA is trending along the same growth line. And now there's more opportunity from a sponsorship and a dollars and social media and all these different avenues that there weren't back then. And so now investing in women's sports, have an opportunity to continue to see growth, not just on the floor, but off the floor. I mean, these women are leaders, these women are mothers, these women fight for change, fight for social justice, fight for change in our society. They don't just play basketball. And, and we've seen that across the board in all sports, male and female. Like, athletes are athletes, but athletes are human beings. And this is their job. But at the same time, they have a platform to create change and make a difference. And now's the time to continue to invest in women, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I mean, the sport is in such a great place as well. You can go up and down the list of like Sabrina and Maya Moore, Tamika Catchings, who's been a pioneer in the sport, Skylar Diggins. I mean, they're all phenomenal hoopers, but they're probably even better people. Obviously, Tamika, and yeah. I'm sure you've met some of the other girls I mentioned, but watching those girls go ball out and do their thing, and then off the court have probably a bigger impact is what's special to me.
It is. And again, I think it's easy to look at these women and men, to be quite honest, as just athletes. And it's just not true. I mean, just like, you're not identified and by your job, you're a human being outside of that. And I think we're at that tipping point where we're starting to recognize that, where these women are getting opportunities that weren't available even when I was playing, in the WNBA. And it's really great to see. And I hope that we just continue to grow. I hope that we continue to get opportunity and give opportunity and that the little girls who are in elementary school right now and middle school that are watching these women can have more and vast opportunities in sport than we ever did because of them. And it's really exciting to think about.
Another thing I saw, this was like just before NIL got passed. It was like the top 10 current college athletes who could make the most money off of their like social media following or whatever. And I think like 8 out of the 10 were women college basketball players. It's crazy.
It is.
That's just going to continue to keep growing and growing and growing, like you said. And I mean, the sky's the limit.
It is. Yeah. The whole social media realm and Instagram and TikTok and followers and all those things that I don't really understand are yeah, I mean, it's opening up a whole new door, you know, and the opportunities that exist for collegiate athletes because of NIL right now and their abilities to take advantage of it. It's vast and it'll be really interesting to see, you know, how it affects everything and how it moves forward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you go back to those teams that you were on at Purdue, you guys would have made bank. Are you kind of jealous? You're like, dang, we should have been.
Of course, yeah, of course, we're a little jealous, but you know, it's the nature of things. You know, when we know better, we do better. When we know more and have more information, we make different decisions. And times change, and things have to change. And you know, times change, people change, things change. And if we don't adjust, and if we don't adapt, and if we don't have the foresight to look and see what's going to change next, then you get left behind. And you know, sport has always been on the forefront of change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, for you, what do you think would be the next step for like the WNBA and women's college basketball to take that next step to continue to grow?
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you're talking about, you know, finances and dollars and that all comes from investment. You know, I think it's economics 101, right? You got to spend money to make money. You know, it starts with investment, continuing to invest in women, continuing to invest in these teams, invest in giving a platform that's equal to what their male counterparts have. Not talking financially equal, I'm talking just the platform and eyes on the platform equal. You know, we've seen television numbers and viewership, you know, numbers skyrocket when games are on television. You know, when they're on television in a time frame and a window that's conducive to being watched, you know, not, you know, 9-10 p.m. at night when most of the audience is in bed, but put it on at a time where people can watch. And we've seen viewership go up. You know, the more advertising dollars that are spent, you know, on women and the more investment there is, we've seen increases in revenue. And I think that's the next step, is just really getting corporate, getting viewership, getting people to invest for WNBA and collegiately getting people back in the stands. You know, it's kind of a catch-22. You got all these games on television, so you don't necessarily have to be there, right? But at the same time, the pride that fans and universities take in their collegiate sports. You know, what does that mean? And for some, that's being out in the community more. I remember when I was at Purdue, you know, we were in classrooms, you know, there were teachers who had math lessons that were based on the stats of our games the night before. You know, we were everywhere because we were part of the community. And there's a lot of insulating, you know, college athletes right now for good reason. And there's not quite as much access to connect in ways that there used to be, because it's all connecting digitally now. And, you know, in my mind, it doesn't have the same effect. I mean, it's not true relationship driven. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. You know, the biggest thing is just like, we got to continue to invest in women. We got to continue to invest in women's sports. We've seen when we do that, it grows. And even in youth sport, you know, the opportunity for young girls to compete, to grow, to train, and continuing to invest in that. We've seen when we put the money sort of where our mouth is, there's been growth.
And I have to shout them out, Courtney Moses Dukes and Jordan
Yeah.
Duck. I don't know if you've been out to the barn. I'm assuming you have, but I mean, they have a bunch of girls down there that are killing it. I mean, one of their girls, Ashley Spade, just committed to UConn.
I saw that. Yeah.
She goes to my high school now, Noblesville. So that was pretty cool to see. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it boils down to those people that have the dollars, like you mentioned, the corporates and everything like that, putting their foot forward and being like, hey, all right, we're going to do this. And then it's just going to blossom. But
and bringing your kids. I mean, you know, I'll never forget, like, one of my all-time favorite moments with my oldest son was when I first took him to a Pacers game, because he had always been to the Fever games. And when I first took him to the Pacers game, and he said to me, Mommy, boys play basketball too? Because all he had known was seeing women play basketball. And I love the fact that my boys get to see these powerful women doing what they do and giving everything that they have and working their tails off to hone their craft and every single day and then want to support women. You know, they would prefer to wear Tamika Catchings jersey right now, you know, and that's awesome to me. Just like it's important, you know, when fathers bring daughters, you know, to games and expose them. You know, it's important for our young boys to be exposed as well. I mean, that's how we create meaningful change in terms of gender equity as we grow. It's exposing our boys and allowing them to see equality, and that these and the athletes are athletes. And it's not just in athletics, it's in corporate world too. I mean, you know, the COVID thing has changed a lot, but at the same time, like, exposing young girls, young boys to all different kinds of experiences and open their minds to the possibilities, and open their minds to the fact that anybody can be anything. And we respect that, and we encourage that, and we empower that.
yeah, that's what it boils down to at the end of the day, in my opinion. I mean, I was lucky enough to where my parents did that for me and really showed me a bunch of different things, whether it be sports or music or anything like that. And it's helped me have an open mind and taken me down paths where I didn't necessarily think I would go. But I mean, obviously it's all worked out for the best, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And then I want to go back to you're talking about kind of the college atmosphere and being like the sense of community. A lot of, from a fan's perspective, there's a lot of people that I know that don't really watch sports, but they're all in for Purdue basketball, football, whatever. I mean, collegiate sports there's nothing like it. I prefer it over pro sports.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, and you said it exactly right. You know, it's a sense of community. You know, I can't even tell you how many people I know that go to football games just so they can tailgate, right? Just so they can hang out with people, just so they can have fun and throw the football around or kick a soccer ball around or throw the baseball around or whatever. You know, and in particular, you know, now after we've sort of been isolated, and you realize connecting with people brings joy. You know, connecting with people who enjoy the same things that you do, collegiate sports, you know, whatever your team is, brings joy. And it used to be you would go to a game because you want to watch the game, right? Now you go to the game because it's a social event, you know, and it doesn't matter what game that is. College, pro, high school, whatever. I mean, think back to going to high school games. When you went to high school football and basketball games, you didn't watch the game, you just hung out with your friends, right? It was like, it was about being social. And I think we're sort of coming back to that now. Like, everything is a social event. These arenas are having different areas where you can stand and talk and, you know, have snacks and drinks and whatever, you know, not just be stuck to your seat. There's televisions in arenas now where you can, if you're waiting in line, you can see the game. You're not having to, you know, wait in line forever and then miss things. So it's becoming much more of a social engagement, which I think is really cool.
No doubt. Now, I was going to bring that up. Back when I was in like middle school, we would go to football games and we wouldn't even sit in the stands. We'd be running around the concourse, talking to our little girlfriends or whatever we were doing.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the most fun times you can look back on, is to going to games, hanging out, supporting your team or school, and
meeting new people. I mean, you're meeting new people, engaging with new people, and connecting and networking in ways that you don't really, it's not necessarily intentional networking, but it's how you expand your crew, right? It's how you expand your contacts. It's overall. And I think that, since we've been through COVID and, all the isolation and all the restrictions and everything else, I think getting back to the root of what brings joy to people, and it's human connection. It sort of brings us back to the roots of, hey, yeah, this is why we do this. It's fun. It's engaging.
Yeah. And then, when you go to games and, you're high-fiving people when you score a touchdown, you don't even know them. But you share that one connection, and it takes you so far. I want to talk about when you were back at Purdue. What was the community feel for you guys? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but how much were you guys embraced by this school?
Oh, it's really hard to put into words. And there are often times where, Yukari Figs and I talk about this all the time. Like we went to the pros and we're talking with our teammates about, our experiences, and not everybody had our experience. And not everybody has it now, where your team is tight, your team is connected. The people in the stands are family, like in every sense of the word. Now I know their grandkids and great grandkids, because it wasn't student athletes and fans. It was a Purdue women's basketball community. And, we looked at it like that. We were treated like that. Our coaches embraced that. And we just had a really good group of people who enjoyed making a difference. And so it's tough for me when I talk to other former athletes who didn't have that kind of experience. I'm like, what? Like, that's what college is supposed to be about. So when we went back at each one of the different reunions, it was really cool. It was like coming home. It always is. And when I go back to call games at Purdue, it's like coming home. A lot of the same ushers, people at the scores table, running into, going to Bruno's, going to Nine Irish Brothers, seeing Jerry, seeing Orlando, like all these different things, that you go back and the people are there. The people who were with you, the people who felt all the highs and lows that you went through. And, you reminisce about the championship or the sellout or the Tennessee game or whatever it might be, because your family's still there.
And that's what it is at the end of the day. I was just talking to someone yesterday, and I won't get into the specifics of it, but essentially he was like, I don't know where I should go. And I was like, go where you feel like the people are, you're gonna feel most home around those people that are in there. And for Purdue, yeah, we got the logo, we got Mackey, but the thing that makes Purdue different, or IU, or whatever you want to talk about, is the people in the building, the fans, the coaches, the players, the staff, the ushers. Even the vendors or something like that. That's what really makes the difference.
It is. You're absolutely right.
And then, for you, when you do come back to Purdue, I was talking to Kellen Dunham the other day, who played at Butler, and he was like, he's playing in the TBL now, so they got to play at Pendleton, and he was like, man, every time I looked around, I just had like flashbacks of like me getting reamed out by a coach, us celebrating, stuff like that. Do you kind of have that same feeling when you step inside Mackey again?
Yeah, I do. And that's why I don't drive by Slater Hill. I don't want any more memories of conditioning on Slater Hill. I can remember the sledding, but conditioning, not so much. Yeah, certainly. And everything's so different now. When you go back to Mackey, everything looks so different. But at the end of the day, it's like you step into the building and you see, some familiar folks, and you see some familiar sights, and it brings you back to certain memories every time. And depending upon where you are in the building or where I am in the building, different memories, good and bad. But that's the thing. It's all the journey. It's all the journey that culminates in for us, what was a national championship. And when we're all back there together, of course, we have the memories of the good times and the bad times, and and talking about it and, those kinds of things. That's what makes it fun to go back to some of those reunions. It's just when you can see everybody and remember those times. But yeah, certainly every time I step in the building, there's some sort of flashback.
And then earlier this year, when you came back to call your first game, you got honored, you got a little celebration. What did that mean to you to just know 21 years later, you're still getting that kind of ovation? And
it was cool. I mean, first of all, going back to call that game was a lot of fun. I called a women's game. I called a men's game. The men's game was really cool just to see the vibe in the arena. I was there in the mid to late 90s when the vibe was great then, and then it kind of went down a little bit. Now it's back up, and Matt's done such a great job with the team, with the program. So it was really cool just to be in there and hear it loud and just passionate fans. And certainly going back to call the women's game and just seeing the practice facility, seeing all the things that are hanging up about kind of our run and the 2001 Final Four with Kelly and Katie. And Sharika, like just with all those people, all the people that you continue to stay in touch with, or I continue to stay in touch with nowadays. It's really awesome. And again, not just the recognition.
mm, cannot hear you.
We better.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry about that. But I mean, going back to that national championship win, obviously, can you even explain that type of feeling, looking back on it now?
No, not really. And, part of it is just, that's kind of the team we were. Like, we were a very, very business kind of oriented, focused team. It was always, okay, we got our job done. Now we're on to the next. And so when we won, it was almost like, okay, what's next? And probably didn't celebrate it in a way that we could have or should have, just emotionally. I think the other piece of that is, it was a weird, like, tight turnaround. So we didn't even spend the night after we won the national championship. It was like we had some sort of celebration where they gave us the trophy, on the floor, and then back in a hotel. And then it was like, okay, well, we got to get on a flight and fly home. So we didn't really get the whole celebratory experience. And so that was different. But I think, for us, when we came home and when they had a celebration in Mackey, we rode in the Boilermaker Special, they took us around campus. We came back to Mackey. We had a celebration. And our fellow student athletes had the tunnel for us to sort of walk out onto the floor. That's when it kind of hit, like, we've done something really special. And then when you're older and you're like, okay, well, we were the first and only Big Ten team to win a national championship. I mean, Maryland's come in, but they weren't in the Big Ten when they won. We were the first Big Ten team to win a national championship, the first Purdue program to win a national championship. This really is history. And for myself and Yukari in particular, to go through 3 coaches in 4 years, to go through, a mass exodus after our freshman year, being picked last in the Big Ten our sophomore year to win a share of the title, to 2 years later winning a championship. I mean, it's really seems unbelievable. I mean, now players wouldn't stay through that. Like, players are on their way out at the slightest bit of adversity. So it really was special, just the way that it all happened and the twists and turns that it all took. And so then when you're celebrating with your fellow student athletes and with the fans, it was just like, okay, like this is really cool. And all of it was worth it.
Those are the teams that you look back on, whether it be like, recently or fairly recently, like Villanova on the men's side.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys who've been there for 4 years, who have battled through that adversity. I mean, you can just tell that it means more to them than it would for a one and done type guy or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard just because, and it's, I don't know about the meaning more or meaning less. It's just the experience that you have. And, to go through, each individual person's experience. So from the time that you started working and playing when you were young, the highs and lows of all that, the setbacks, the getting back up, to everything that it takes in college. I mean, you go to college and you oftentimes just get knocked in the mouth. It's just it's a different ball game, right? And then how you come back from that, how you come back from the adversity, the celebrations, the journeys with your teammates, the conditioning days, the days that you're in trouble all the time, right? The days where travel stinks. And I mean, everything that you go through, when you look back and you think that I made it through all that. And at the end of the day, our last game was a win. Our last game was a win. Like everybody else finishes their season with a loss, and we finished with a win. And then to celebrate it the way that we did, it was really cool. And it's something that, we will all, every time we talk, we reminisce about it, we talk about it. And it's fun when we go back and we share it with our Purdue community.
I want to move on to kind of Purdue now and how it's evolved. How cool is it to see KG back home? I mean, leading Purdue, the complete turnaround from last year, obviously. How cool is it to be able to see her come home and do that?
It's really cool. I'm so happy for her. I mean, for her to have the journey that she had, playing at Purdue, playing professionally, playing overseas, and then to come back and get into coaching and work her way back home. I mean, it's always special when you're coaching your alma mater. When you have somebody that comes back, because it's special from a alum standpoint, just because that person like cares about your program. There were a lot of times where we felt like Purdue was a stepping stone for someone, right, to go on to something else. And as you grow up and as you get older, you realize that there's reasons that happens, and a lot of which are have to do with just the profession in general and jobs in general and things like that. But as a young person, you wanted somebody there that you knew was invested in the program, wanted to be in the program, wanted to see the program continue to succeed, and takes great pride in where the program had been and where it's going. And so to see Katie back is really cool. It's really exciting. She's doing a great job. I think her mentality, her mindset, her vision is good. To have somebody that can relate to these kids, and that won't sacrifice the pride in Purdue athletics, is important. So yeah, I'm really happy for her, and I'm really happy that she's doing so well, and look forward to good things in the future.
And as far as your coaching career, did you know that you wanted to get into coaching basically immediately after your career ended?
No, I kind of got into coaching by accident. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And when you're playing, you think you're going to play forever. So, it wasn't until I had my first surgery that I started thinking about life after basketball. And I really got lucky while I was playing in Indiana. Tracy Roller, who was the coach at Ball State at the time, came down to an Indiana Fever game, and she said, "Hey, listen, I have an opening on my staff. Would you like to get into coaching?" And I was like, well, I never really thought about it. I'm not quite ready to be done playing. And she's like, you wouldn't have to be. Like you would be here with our team in the winter, and then you can go play in the summer. And it would just kind of be, we'd work like that. A way to get your feet wet, a way to get your foot in the door. And of course, Ball State was just up I-69 from the Fever, from Indianapolis. So I was like, oh, that might work. So I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, let me do that. And then I ended up tearing my ACL that summer. And so I had to go back and forth with a lot of rehab and stuff like that. But the first time I stepped on the floor at Ball State, I knew this is what I was meant to do. It's just kind of one of those things where it just felt right. I love the gym. I love being in the gym. I love being in the gym as an athlete. The next logical step for me was to continue to use my mind the way that I use my mind as a player, and to continue to invest in young women and helping them grow and helping them be better. So once I stepped foot on the court at practice at Ball State, I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I want to talk about. I mean, you've had so many, at every level you've been at, you've been successful, and you've had so many high school basketball, college, coaching in college, playing in WNBA, coaching WNBA, and now you're an analyst. How has that benefited you just in terms of having that feel for the game and that knowledge in so many different things to where you can take that and put it all into one?
Yeah, it's I've really just been lucky because in a lot of ways, but number one, like I was never the best athlete. I worked. I love the game. I worked really hard on my skills. I was playing all the time, working all the time. But my mind and what came from a mental standpoint was pretty natural. And then when you start diving into film study and strategy and watching the game, it just all those kind of things that came natural, it helped me go to another level. Just starting to really hone in on the studying of the game. Much like there are a lot of people who can play the game, and then once they start working on their skill set, or get that much better, right? Or you can be a great drill person, and then once you start playing basketball, you just get better. So for me, it was immersing myself into studying the game analytically through film that kind of took it to another level. So I feel like whatever my natural gifts were, it carried right over into coaching. It was by accident that I got into broadcasting. I mean, I was coaching in Chicago with the Chicago Sky when the Big Ten Network started, and it was starting in Chicago. I one of my friends who was calling the game for the Chicago Sky, Eric Collins, who's now the play-by-play voice in the Charlotte Hornets, said to me when I was doing all these interviews, like, "Why are you in television?" I don't know. I never really thought about it. So he gave me the name and number of somebody at Big Ten Network. I called him and they're like, "Yeah, come on in. We'll give you a tryout." And it turned into a career. So I've really just been lucky being in the right place at the right time. I've been a student of the game my whole life. So I think it lends to coaching and broadcasting. And I love the game. Like, I'm passionate about the game. I love to be in the gym. I love to watch. I love to listen. I love to learn. And, you can never stop learning in any profession or in life. And so I've just been really, really fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, and fortunate that I love this game the way that I do, and invested in getting better.
Yeah, I love how, like, the Ball State coach comes and like, "Hey, do you want to be a coach?" And you're like, "Sure, I'll try it." And then you go on to do so many great things. Broadcasting, "Hey, you want to come try this out?" "Hey, sure, why not?" And then, it's turned into a superb career. Do you ever look back and think about just how far you've come and all the different things you've got to do, places you got to travel and everything like that throughout your career?
I do. And even more so now when when I'm telling stories to my kids,
Mhm.
they get to do all these great things, and, I'm telling them stories about when I was a kid, and, the opportunities that were or weren't there, and, what I've been able to do because of the game of basketball, people that I've been able to meet, the relationships that I've had, the places I've been able to go. I do. And I just feel really lucky. I feel really fortunate that this kid from West Lebanon, Indiana, which is not even maybe on the map now. I don't even know if it's on the map. The middle of nowhere. I'll never forget a 7th grade teacher of mine told me that he wouldn't believe that I was any good at basketball until I got a letter from Tennessee, right? This was when I was saying I wanted to play college basketball, and everybody's like, "You can't play college basketball coming from a small town. Like, there's no way it's going to happen." And I'll never forget when I got that letter, I brought it to him and I was like, "Look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this." But yeah, you look back and I'm just really lucky. I'm really blessed. I had a great support system. Coming from where I came from was the best thing for me. Having a hunger and a desire to accomplish things that might seem out of reach. And then the work ethic to do it, that was just in me and instilled in me from a young age by my family. And then having the people around me that believed in the power of my dreams, whether they believed it could come true or not. They always told me that, if you're willing to work for it, if you're willing to do what it takes, you can accomplish anything. And just having those people around to encourage you, but hold you accountable at the same time is important. We can't sell false dreams. Like, it doesn't just happen. Like, you have to make it happen.
Yeah. Hey, that's the perfect thing to end on. I know we're getting close on time, so I'm gonna wrap this thing up. But thank you so much for coming on, being so gracious with your time and sharing these stories. It's been a true honor.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.